Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast. My name's Ben Jackson, and once again, we're running a two-man show. However, this time it's going to be a different two-man show. Only Joris is joining me. Joris, how are you doing this evening?
Where are you going next week?
But
I'm alright.
Yeah, it's my chance to come.
But I'm alright.
That's good to hear, man. Unfortunately, Scott cannot join us. He's probably still recovering from the Mechelen game over the weekend, and who can blame him for that? What a ridiculous game. Despite, as me and Joris were saying as we watched it quite closely, it wasn't actually the best of games, but somehow ended up with 9 goals. We'll get to that. It's the last one of the weekend, so we'll do them all in chronological order as we do usually. Start off in the weekend as we go through the results. So Seraings beat Eupen 3-1 away from home. Lots to talk about in that one. St. Truden finally got a win. They beat Oostend 1-0. Genk beat Cercle Bruges 2-1 at home. On the Sunday, Club Bruges beat Kortrijk 2-1. Zultewaregem lost at home 3-1 to Charleroi. Standard lost again 3-1 to Leuven. And then, as I said, Mechelen beat Westerlo 5-4. Obviously, a couple of games were kind of postponed to give chances for European teams to have some rest. We'll get to their results a little bit later on as well. Let's start with Eupen against Seraings. I'd obviously put the curse on Eupen for this one by saying Seraings will never win a game, and they have. And they were fantastic in this one. They absolutely battered Eupen in the first half. Happy to play on the counter and look dangerous every single time. Got an early penalty, slightly harsh from the replays. Couldn't really see it. I think it was Reagan Charles Cook. Looked like he handballed it in the box. It was one of those ones where like every angle you got wasn't really satisfactory to be like, yes, that definitely is, or no, it definitely isn't. However, up stepped Marius Muandel-Maggi and he squeezed it in past Merza to make it 1-0 within 5 minutes. Eupen then continued to attack. However, some lovely football again from Seraings. Ball came into Marius, on the edge of the kind of 6-yard box. He kind of stood up Davidson. Davidson could do nothing against the pure strength of Marius. Rolled him, finished it off, made it 2-0. And then Antoine Bernier, who had been absolutely fantastic throughout this match, and especially in the first half, he put the icing on the cake of that first half for Seraings by giving them a 3-0 half-time lead. Not surprisingly, Bernstorff made a whole rung of changes at half-time. Indeli came on, Tariq McGee came on, Jan Garenk came on, and they played so much better. Conan Indeli, I've been calling for him to play. Everyone seems to be now calling for him to play. He was fantastic when he came on, really did change the game, as did Durm, and they got back into it in the 60th minute when Gary Magny pulled them level with a fantastic shot into the bottom corner. However, they just could not find another goal. Seraings run out 3-1 winners, to the delight of Unishoms at the end there and the rest of the squad. And Joris, they were fantastic in this game, weren't they? And they fully deserved the 3 points.
Yeah, definitely. A bit unexpected, maybe. And they even passed on the torch of the not so honorable last place torch to Eupen, to their opponents. So that's a nice swing of events as well. They also scored only one time before this game. Now they scored 3 inside 40 minutes. Okay, 1 penalty, but even then, the 2 other ones were class goals. Even though I would also make the remark the defending was not great on both, so Stork was rightfully not very happy with that. Second half was better. I guess Eupen was better than Seraings there. But of course, that's given the circumstances, not surprising. And there was this one disallowed goal for Henry. It was an offside goal, but that could have brought the complete tension back and the comeback back on. But that did not happen at all in the end. And yeah, Perveliak missed a big chance. That's an unlikely miss for him. Nothing really went Eupen's way in this game. Also, the penalty went in with Moser. Well, it wasn't. The penalty was. Was it a bad penalty shot or I don't know, but it was a bit in the corner, but Moser managed to reach it and hit it, but then it still squeezes in with the post. So yeah, he will feel like I should have gotten that. Better, stronger hand might have helped. Yeah, in the end, it was well enough in the corner, just in at the right speed. Marius Muandel-Maggi finally scoring 2 again. I didn't look up when it was the last time he scored, but it has been a while. I'm sure. Definitely not this season as you Can't imagine if when they only scored one goal. Good performance from Seraing. Quite a bad one from Eupen in the first half. Second half recovered a bit, but it was not enough. These are the games to win for Eupen, though. You would back them to win this one, then they would keep Seraing beneath them for sure, and even further beneath them, and make a good move in the classification. Yeah, now it's the opposite, and they're even behind Seraing. So I'm not sure if you really cursed them, because I think we've all been saying that, maybe especially you, but every week. So it was bound to happen at some point that Seraing would grab some points, and that they would grab that win, and that your curse. It's a bit of a manipulated curse, maybe in a way.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, man. And I mean, it's funny when if you went to Eupen fans and you were like, right, after 5 games, you'd have 3 points, and they'd be like, yeah, that would have been the win against Seraing we'd have lost to Charleroi, Bruges, Genk, and Antwerp, but Seraing would have beaten. So, in a way, it's kind of weird. It's like, yeah, they were fantastic against Club Bruges and deserved to win that one, and then they come and lay an absolute egg against Seraing. And like, I don't know, Christophe Lapointe as well just looked insanely good in this game. Like, he was just dominating at the back in the entire first half. Like, my presumption was they'd try and get Nuhu to like run off his shoulder, and none of that was happening. Conche Chow as well, I thought that was his best game in a Seraing shirt. Like, every single player, I think, played well for them, and fair play. We've said they don't have the quality, but then to come out and play the way they did and win the game like they did, score 3 goals, probably could have scored more in that first half as well, and had a couple of chances in the second half on the counter-attack. So fair play to them. They've won a game.
Yeah, and just my final thing to add as well that I forgot to mention, like, it looks like they are a bogey team a bit of Eupen, because even last season, Eupen was one of the only 2 teams together with Leuven that didn't manage to win once against Seraing, and the first time now it also didn't happen already.
I mean, of all the teams to have as your bogey team, this season is definitely not the one to have Seraing as your bogey team. It makes it interesting at the bottom going forward, because we now know they've got that performance in them, and sides in and around them who are going to be struggling this season now should be quite wary that they can put the ball in the net. They can win games. They can defend reasonably well. I mean, I agree. I think, Prevolyak had a really good chance that he should have scored. And I think Eupen on another day should have put a couple more of the chances away. But defensively, they were horrible. And that really does need to improve. Let's move to the coast for a Saturday afternoon kickoff as Oostend hosted St. Sluden. St. Sluden obviously without a win so far this season. Brought in Shinji Okazaki. He'd been training with them throughout the week. Basically only announced the signing on Friday, and he was straight into the starting team. And I mean, a couple of years ago, if you said you had Okazaki and Kagawa up front, that would have been a really exciting kind of strike force. However, it was the man at the back that got the winning goal in this one, Tony Leisner, from a set piece, and it was horrible for Hubert, who's actually been really good this season. I've not rated him that much, I'm not going to lie, over the last couple of seasons, but previously he had been doing quite well, but this was kind of a return to his former self with a just kind of lack of judgment of the ball and the pace that the ball was coming towards him. He really probably should have done better. Oostend did have some chances. Cameron McGeehan came back in. He had a couple of chances in the first half. They just kind of hit everything at Daniel Schmidt. There was penalty contentions, but they didn't get the penalty in this one. St. Julian finally get their win. And Joris, I guess it would be frustrating for Oostend that they didn't manage to get anything out of this. But do you think that maybe now we might see Dylan Phillips come into the Oostend squad? I know they signed him and it looked like he was probably going to be the number one, and they were just waiting for him to be kind of given the go-ahead. But then Hubert's been playing so well, it kind of felt harsh to drop him. But maybe now is the time after that, which seems a bit harsh, but it's kind of been a long time coming, I guess, for them with the goalkeeper situation.
Yeah, that was not really great goalkeeping or any goalkeeping at all, actually, on that goal. Yeah, definitely not his brightest moment in this season. So I guess to answer your question straight away, yes, short answer. It probably is to time already, especially with the results. So not that in all other games it has been his fault, but that the results not going their way the last few games, it's still early days, of course, and they're not really in trouble. But it could be a good one. And like you mentioned, yeah, the Seraing win led to only one team winless at this stage, which was Sint-Truiden. That changed here, so all teams have now won a game, at least one game. So that's congratulations to all teams, I guess. For at least getting some, and for all players to get some winning bonuses. All in all, Oostende will feel like they could have gotten more out out of this game anyway. I think like a draw would have been a result that was the deserved result for both teams. It wasn't the greatest game of football, to be honest, but yeah, it was quite even. Not that many chances though, so it was relatively a relatively boring game. And then yeah, a blunder can make a difference, of course, as well. Despite Oostende's efforts in the last 10-15 minutes maybe, where they probably should have scored at least once. That's basically all I had. Also, in the meantime, I know I'm going a bit backwards. I should have done this research before, but to quickly come back to Marius, I've got 2 stats for his goals. So I did look it up now. When was the last time he scored? And I discovered 2 things in that search, which is one, he equaled his goal tally of last season inside this 40 minutes, and additionally, his last goal had been the 21st of August, exactly 1 year ago, actually. Well, not on the day, but on the game day.
On the game day.
Probably. Although I might have started the game earlier, but even then, like on the weekend of that, that was quite interesting to mention. Even though I'm a bit late with it, but was worth to mention anyway.
I'm pretty sure I can't remember if it was Harry Kane or someone that used to have that record of never scoring in August or something. Yeah, maybe Marius is just like he's the flip side of it. He only scores in August. I don't know, but hopefully for his sake, he can go on to get at least like 10 or 12 goals this season. That'd be a good season for him. Yeah, on the St. Truiden one, I think they're not the team you want to go 1-0 down against, given how strong they are defensively and how they can kind of like grind out the game. However, let's move to your side, Joris, in Genk. 4 wins in a row now. Definitely a much more entertaining side to watch. They were up against Cercle Bruges, and how this was only 1-0 to Genk at halftime, I have no idea. The amount of corners and set pieces that were swung into free headers, everyone just, I think it was Mackenzie, Cuesta, just wanted to head it down into the ground and then looped over the bar every single time. Kind of signs of things to come were definitely like foreshadowed in this one with Louis Torres. Just, I don't know, he just really loves letting players get the run on him and then having to make like a last ditch sliding tackle in the box at full stretch. It just seems to be something that happened a lot in this game, especially like Pencil and then El Canus were kind of like running off him and causing him all sorts of issues. Like there was so much coming down that kind of Genk right hand side. However, it was the goal scoring machine of the midfield at the moment, Brian Hennon, who got himself on the score sheet again. Lovely header in the 41st minute from a fantastic cross. I think it's from Arteaga to stick that one away. Really, really good header from him. However, Cercle did get back into the game pretty much straight after half time. Slightly controversial, kind of Denki. I think it was Denki that came on at halftime. Him and Mackenzie went up for a challenge. Mackenzie fell awkwardly and was just kind of like sprawling out on the floor. One of those incidents where I know in the letter of the law it's head injury is only when you should stop the game, but how often does it actually happen? Most of the time teams will just stop, or players and referees will stop the game regardless, and especially in like a key situation like that. However, the game wasn't stopped. Ball finds its way out to Olivier Deman, and he smashes it in to make it 1 goal apiece. However, Louis Torres, as I'd mentioned before, same incident, same situation for him. He then gives away a penalty. Not sure how the referee didn't initially give this and then let VAR check, because to me, like when I saw it on TV, I was like, well, this is a stonewall penalty. Like Munoz runs off him, he's reaching for the ball, he clearly doesn't get the ball. Munoz does make a little bit of a meal with it, kind of like throwing his hands up in the air, but it looked like a definite penalty to me. Took VAR to intervene for it to be given. Upset Brian Hennon again. He made it 2 goals for himself, 2-1 to Genk, and that is how it finished. Joris, were you happy with the performance in this one, or do you feel like there was a lot of missed opportunities to kind of kill the game off a lot earlier?
I guess both is a correct answer here. They should have scored a bit earlier on, indeed, like you mentioned. Despite that, Cercle was defending generally quite well and putting a lot of pressure like we know them now. It's not really coming off up front for them so far this season. It was only the 2nd goal of the season now. So they really need to strengthen a bit there. But yeah, to come back to Henk, should be a bit more efficient still, but on the other hand, it's good that there is at least so many chances. There was also the disallowed goal from Hane. Well, from Munoz actually, where I first thought, well, okay, that was just a silly move. Silly, it's of course is a bit of a reflex, so you can't really blame the guy. When I had a closer look at the images later on. I'm surprised that didn't go through a VAR check actually, because there's a circular defender where you can't see the legs so easily behind Mackenzie, and it's really tight. Not the worst decision, I suppose. I personally felt like the penalty could not have been given just because of this supposed guidelines, at least that like not simulation maybe, but like players that are really looking for a penalty or and making a meal out of things should not be awarded a penalty. I do think indeed it's a foul generally, but it does make a meal out of it, and yeah, Munoz and I could have seen that not have been given, although it never would have been a corner kick, of course. That's another thing we've discussed last season as well. I think yeah, always these ridiculous decisions sometimes. Where the referees don't really make decisions, but try to keep it in the middle and keep both teams happy. Generally, performance-wise, definitely a good one from Genk again. Despite it probably was the worst one so far, but that's maybe nice to quote Wouter Frankel on them. No team can really play really fluent and throughout the whole game really fluent football against this Cercle Brugge side. Really good football, because and that's of course not meant as an insult, but rather as a compliment to the Cercle side. They do really make it difficult for teams to play against them. They did really well. I already thoroughly enjoy Bilal El Kanous. His passing, his presence as well on the field, I guess, and the shout the Torres shout for the penalty there. Well, for on Bilal, well, I do think it was a foul, but it was outside of the box there. So okay, that was a good decision. Well, it was a bad decision from the referee, but the VAR couldn't really intervene because it wasn't a penalty deciding foul, I guess. Yeah, Torres got off after the goal, after the second goal. Yeah, Henne is indeed the unlikely goal scorer for Genk now. The last, he scored 4 goals over the course of the last 2 weekends, and well, therefore also is not only the leading goal scorer of Genk, but of the league at the moment. So he will be wearing the Golden Bull shirt next weekend, probably the first and only time he will do that. Also, first and last time he will do that, because of course a few teams did not play this weekend that could that have some contenders for that as well.
Yeah, no, it'll be funny seeing him in that. He should definitely auction that one off after the game. Could probably get a bit for it, because it'll be definitely a little bit of a collector's item at the end. Yeah, sitting nicely at the top of the table, obviously with some other teams still to play after last week, but it's been a decent start for Genk under Franken. Let's go to last season's champions then, who had the lunchtime kickoff on Sunday. And the way this one started, I thought it was going to be over by basically a bit by half an hour. Selemani slipping early on for Kortrijk. That allowed Ferrenucle to stroll in and make it 1-0. And that was in like the 4th minute, I think. And after that, it was just all Club Brugge. Illich was fantastic. I thought in this game, he made some really, really good saves to deny the hosts basically taking a 2-0 lead. And that was vital, because he kept them in the game for long enough that they had a chance on the counter-attack, ball over the top, Christophe running onto it, keeping it in play despite the protests of Club Brugge players, and lots of Club Brugge players actually stopping, which is one of the biggest sins, like just keep playing. He cuts it square, Pape Habib Gay gets a goal, which he desperately needs, and they really need him to get goals. They've obviously signed Philippe Avenatti, who did make a second debut for them in this game. But yeah, Kortrijk got an equaliser in about half an hour. However, didn't last, and just before half-time, Bjorn Meyer just absolutely desperately wanted to score this one. Really good cross from Scott Olsen, just kind of hanging it up, and Meyer just completely battered. I think it was Radovanovic, who you'd expect to be pretty good in the air against kind of a more of a fullback, but Meyer really wanted it. He absolutely powered the ball past Illich. At that thought, you think, right, okay, Kortrijk have kind of had their chance to be in the game, but now they're going to kind of struggle in the second half, and Club are going to push on and take over. But Club, I don't know what happened to them at half time, but they just came out so flat, had absolutely nothing, and Kortrijk were, in my opinion, the better team in the second half. I thought Habib Keita in the central areas was absolutely fantastic. He was really, really putting pressure on the likes of Adoy and Nielsen and Van Aken. Gay hit the bar. They had a couple of other chances. Club Brugge just didn't really seem ready and willing to kill the game off. Hoefkins did make some changes. He brought on Noah Lang, who, as we've spoken about before, has been asked to be on the bench so that he can stay fit and injury-free. Unfortunately, within 4 minutes, he was injured, and it looks like he's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. So he had to come back off. Carl Laren then came on for him. A couple of youngsters got some appearances as well, Lin Aldor and Cisse Sandra. Yusuf Chaluk came on for Kortrijk and then got sent off for Kortrijk, unfortunately for them. And it looked like Club Brugge had made it, could finally finish the game off when Bjorn Meyer looked to have made it 3-1 in the very final minutes. However, that one was chalked off by VAR for offside. Yours, such a weird game, this one, because like I was saying, in the first half, it looked like it was just going to be an absolute mauling and Kortrijk were just there for the taking. But in the second half, they really did up their game and Club were just flat and just didn't have a very good match, I don't think.
Yeah, well, defensively, you definitely can say that. Offensively, well, I had to go on with highlights on this one, but Club Brugge had also 29 shots, which is like a lot, and I guess a majority game in the first half. Meyer had also been looking for that goal in the whole game. He had a few other headed chances, I think, and other chances maybe as well. Yeah, in that first half. But defensively, yeah, the one long ball and the goal was wide open. The first goal from can't just go too quickly past that Selamani giveaway goal either. That like terrible. Well, maybe it's a bit of bad luck, but and unfortunate. But it's also this just can't really happen for a professional player, I guess, especially in such a early stages still. So you can't really call it on tiredness or fatigue or anything. A real giveaway goal there. But yeah, indeed. So second half, Kortrijk looked a bit better from what I could make up out of the highlights. They created some more chances. Avenatti had a real good header and a good save needed for Mignolet there. And well, Brugge's defense, there still needs to be something coming on there. But I think we will see another Club Brugge after the transfer window closes, and it's clear who's still staying and who's going. Because I do think there's still some at least passive tensions in this dressing room, just because of the uncertainty of certain players as well. Havanaker rumored now as well. Boyata maybe incoming. Will that really help their problems domestically? Probably it will shore up their defense a bit. Will it be enough for in the Champions League? I would on paper say no, but we'll see about that. Kortrijk, yeah, we've been banging this drum of Chaluk so often, and now he finally got his first minutes, but it was also really short. So I'm not sure if he really whether it's a red card or not. You probably also worth a discussion, but he didn't buy himself time for getting more playing time in either way, I suppose. Yeah, because that red card will stand.
Yeah, no, that was kind of frustrating from the Shaluk fan club over here. Yeah, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head, Joris, and that's what, while I was watching the game, that's what I was thinking, was like, Club Brugge obviously going to be going into the Champions League, and last season they had a difficult group, but they performed well because they had players that you look at like Charles de Ketelaere, Noah Lang playing at the top of his game much more often, and this team just doesn't look as good at the moment. Like you said, hopefully by the end of August there'll be a little bit more kind of movement in that section. But I do fear if they lose Van Aken, especially for like kind of Champions League and stuff like that, because he is one of those players of real quality that they have. He's been there, done it as well. Obviously, Ruud Vormer's kind of being moved on, and I know Will in the commentary was like, that seems to be kind of a potential reason why Van Aken's kind of looking at this time to go. It would be, I kind of half and half, like obviously I'd love him to stay because I enjoy watching him play, but I'm also kind of like, he's earned the right to have this move. It's probably come too late, in my opinion. I think if he'd wanted it, he probably should have gone a little bit earlier, but he's been quite happy with Club Brugge. He's been paid quite well by Club Brugge, so it's kind of like, it like kind of evens itself out there. But yeah, he's kind of about to turn 30, last real chance to get this sort of move. Can understand why the club wants to keep him, but can understand why he wants to go. So we'll see what happens. I don't really know which way to think, whether it will or won't happen. I'm fully expecting him to still be there, but they definitely need some more kind of reinforcements brought in. Boyata, yeah, I think like you said, domestically be a good addition. Champions League, not too sure, but then where are you going to find a Champions League edition that's going to make a massive difference in the defensive areas that isn't a really young up-and-coming player like they found with Kosunu? So it's going to be interesting to see what they look like in August, but hopefully they can put some kind of different players and some transfers in just so that we have some good football to watch in the Champions League, because a performance like they put in against Kortrijk in the Champions League could be quite horrific to watch for us and Club Brugge fans, unfortunately. Let's move on to the next game on Sunday, which is Zulte Waregem against Charleroi. Zulte obviously coming off the back of that defeat to Genk. Charleroi, who've been really disappointing, and like while they beat Seraings, they weren't massively convincing, and defensively they looked all over the place to start this one. Ali Federa with a tap in the 5th minute to cap off a really fine start for the hosts. Solani with a really nice run and cross, and yeah, he put it in. He's deserved that goal over the last couple of weeks for his performances. However, Charleroi kept in this one, and Dan Heymans with a really, really good finish in the 36th minute got them back on level terms. Second half was a little bit stale. I'm not going to lie, there wasn't much to kind of watch and get excited about. They were really even, I felt, these two sides. So I was quite surprised that Charleroi did manage to win this one 3-1 in the end. Joris Kembe, who'd been dropped for this game, came back on in the second half, and he managed to grab the all-important goal in the 83rd minute to make it 2-1. Zulte were then pushing for an equaliser. Charleroi hit them on the break, and Anasari, another substitute, came on with a really, really nice finish. He wrapped this one up. It finished 3-1 to Charleroi. However, this game was definitely, in my opinion, deserved a draw. I didn't think either side was that much better than each other, but if you're a Zulte Waregem fan, you're slightly concerned after a reasonably positive start that kind of the old defensive frailties might be coming in, conceding 7 in the last 2.
Yes, definitely. There seems to be something going wrong again there. They do concede too easily. Also, on the other hand, the main thing I noticed in this game was that Charleroi were again decisive in the final minutes. So it could also be just that. I think had been scoring goals for fun last few weeks anyway as well. I suppose that could happen. So for Charleroi, that was the second time in a row that they made the decisive goals in this case. In the final 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, despite not being particularly convincing during the whole start of the season, they are now grabbing the points, and they are in a good spot in the classification. I suppose 3 wins out of 5. I guess that they'll be relatively happy with that. I didn't watch that much of this game either, so I can't tell that much. But it didn't look like the best of games either. Not that many chances. I guess in the end, you could probably say a routine win for Charleroi, despite going behind early in the game already. Charleroi quite efficient for runs. Actually, that's also another drum we've been beating a lot, that they might. Doing that might need someone there, but it looks like this time around they were efficient.
Yeah, no, they definitely were efficient, and Ed still looked very, very relieved at the end of this one. Stan Vrame almost scored a goal as well. He almost scored against Genk last week, and he almost scored in this one, so it's getting closer for him, the man who we were all confused that they signed, but maybe he's going to start banging them in, who knows. He's definitely getting closer. The next game was feisty, and I don't know why, but it was. Like, there was a lot of tackles, a lot of chat between these two sides. This was Standard Liège against Leuven. Standard started all right, started on the front foot, as they always seem to do when they're at home. They always seem to kind of get inside, get with the crowd and get going. However, Leuven soaked up that early pressure and then just hit them on the counter-attack twice in the first half. First goal was from Paul Steinsson, the Iceland international, at the back post with a nice, easy tap-in after a pretty decent cross and play from Leuven. And he kind of went straight over to the Liège fans, the Standard fans, instead of going over to his own fans. Did like a little bit of like a DJ remix celebration. Nick Raskin was fuming. He was so angry. Like, everyone just started. He looked like he wanted to kill him, which was quite funny. And that just seemed to kick it all off. Tackles started to fly in a little bit. Nachon Nsingi then got his second of the season. Another really good, nice tap in from him, just running straight across those two, right across the three. Sorry, it was a back three this week for Standard. Right across, I think it was Discern or Leifis, one of those two, just ran straight across them quite easily to tap it in. 2-0 at half time, and Leuven looked really, really comfortable. However, Nsingi went from hero to zero, 51st minute. I think he slips into this tackle. I don't think it's meant to be as bad as it was. I don't think he doesn't seem like that sort of player. Like, he seems, and he looks like pretty like upset with himself, I think. And he looks a little bit confused as to why he's getting sent off, but it was not the greatest of tackles on Ed and Shamir, just kind of right above into the shin with his studs up. So the referee didn't really have a choice to give a red card. Instantly enough, Shamir had come on for Lascan, who had been taken off at half time. Make of that what you will. I'm sure him and Ronnie Dyler had a a diplomatic conversation with each other, and then it ended up with Dino saying, you can sit the second half out. So that meant that Leuven were down to 10. Standard had a big chance basically to get back into the game. Everything that was good for Standard came through Balikwisha. I thought he was excellent in this game, beating players for fun, creating chances, and basically like the Westerlo game, no one wanted to finish them off. Emon's just his movement was just out of sync, I think, with every single other player that was trying to create. Donham didn't really do much. Who else didn't really do much? Dragus was off, I think, by that point. Tapsoba came on, lively but didn't really do much. Bojovic came on again, didn't really do much. Shanak came on, and he's one player I think he should just be starting every week at this point, because it's good development for him. He can stick a ball in the box and eventually someone's going to do something with it, you'd hope. But I'll definitely start playing him a little bit more. However, it was then this hilarious situation where Leuven were just happy to defend, but they just left Musa Altamari up front. But every attack was just them launching the ball to him. He'd pick it up. He'd have 3 or 4 players and he'd just be like, I'm just going to run at them. And he would. And none of the other Leuven players would support him in anything. They were just like, okay, yeah, you go, Musa. Just do what you can and see what happens. And he was creating chances, to be fair. And I loved his energy and kind of enthusiasm for that role. You could tell he really relished it. Thankfully for him, I think it was it Deval who'd come on at this point? Someone every couple of minutes, like Standard were trying to play it out from the back and they just hit a ball across the back line on the halfway line. They'd nip in and intercept it. It happened a couple of times before he finally did make it count, running all the way past Bacardi, smashing it past Bodar. Bodar had made a pretty horrible mistake for the first goal, just kind of laying that one in. So he wasn't having the best of games. So that was 3-1 to Leuven. The Standard fans were singing about being bored, which thankfully you mentioned to me, Joris, because I was going to come on in and say, wasn't it great they kept supporting the team right to the very end? But they did, just in a different way. They did get a consolation goal when there was a penalty for, I think it was a foul on Balikwisha in the end, or there was a foul on someone in the box. I think it was Louis Patris, who'd got another assist. Forgot to mention that, Louis Patris with another assist in this game. M1 stepped up and, as you'd expect, missed it, but then he got the rebound and put that one in. It finished 3-1. Leuven fully deserved this, and even with 10 men, they were just quite comfortable in the end.
Definitely. This is also the first ever win for Leuven in Insglessin, so that's always a nice time for a first. And indeed, the Standard fans were not happy at all. We were booing the players, not only booing, but singing against, well, maybe not against the players in itself, but against the club, well, also and including the players, but well, I think it was also aimed higher up as well. Yeah, and I think it's really panic time for Standard now as well. They really look flat. Balikwisha was indeed a nice surprise start. I guess it was his first start this season. Played really well, but he couldn't do it all on his own. Unfortunately for him, good win for Leuven. Definitely, they seem to be on the right track. On the other hand, still after coming off a few defeats, also them like Charleroi have now 9 points out of a possible 15 for them. So I guess they will definitely not be complaining. They did break their slightly negative spell after 2 losses in a row quickly here. And yeah, Nsingi with the goal, he was maybe slightly lucky because Bodar probably should have done better. And with Nsingi's red card, it is a red card, but he can't be. Yeah, it was definitely not his intention. It's a bit of an unfortunate one, but luckily for him, his teammates did well, and yeah, Tamari could even seal the victory. Had a bit of a laugh with the goal, a disallowed goal from Standard, with Tapsova tapping the ball in clearly from offside, a ball that would have gone in otherwise. It became a bit less funny when it became clear that Emo, who had sent the ball in first place, anyway was offside, so it would have been disallowed anyway. But that would have been a really silly way in comparison to Munoz. It's still silly, but yeah, there you can say to some reflects here. It was just, well, not a smart action. I guess you could say that. Definitely panic time for Standard at the end of the transfer window. Not that many names in. Definitely not enough names in. Still a few key players that might be on the way out as well. They are only on goal difference at the moment, not in the relegation zone, and it doesn't look like they also deserve that much more at the moment. That's me the most worrying thing for them. A bit next to the game, but it's a bit of a sign or so maybe that Genoa loaned out Buxa, a striker, a 19-year-old supposedly promising striker, Polish striker, to their out to their opponents, Leuven, for this weekend, instead of to Standard, who definitely could use someone like him. Anyone, I guess. Anyway, they could use up front. Emo, yeah, indeed, he didn't have the best of games, but I guess in some games, he can play. I'm not sure who they have. They definitely can use someone else as well. Another option up front is what I'm trying to say here with too many words.
No, but you're completely right. And I was going to say about Buxa signing for Leuven. It's going to be interesting. I'm quite excited to see how he does, especially with Nsingi now probably suspended, so it's going to be like he might get a chance quite quickly. Interesting as well, Holzhauser has been dropped for the past 2 games. Read into that what you will. Maybe it's about who they're playing against, maybe not, I don't know, but that's always an interesting one to keep an eye on. But yeah, 100%. I mean, they need strikers, they need centre-backs, they'll need central midfielders. If Raskan and Mala go, what is going to keep them in the division? Like it sounds drastic, but I'm looking there and I'm like, you're relying on what, Balikwisha to do it, and he's so young, and like other players like Sanak, Emond, is he going to score enough goals? Like, I don't know. It is going to be really tricky, and if they don't sort it out within the next week or so, they could be looking at a really, really tough long season. And this, of all the seasons to struggle, this isn't the one they want to be struggling, given the amount of kind of the realigning that's going to be going on in terms of how many teams are in each division. It'd be a pretty big story nonetheless if they did go down. But it's still early days. They've still got time to make some signings, but not much time. From that to Mechelen and the 9-goal thriller that I'm sure you've all been waiting to hear us talk about. What a ridiculous game this was. Defensively weird, I think you can safely say. Neither team really fancied it defensively, hence the 9 goals. It was Westerlo who opened the scoring, though. Mechelen had quite a few chances just kind of shooting wide in the first few minutes, but on the 25th, 26th minute, Douglas gets his second of the season. Another fortuitous one. Last week's was kind of hit at him. This one, it was just more of a tap-in after a scramble, but they all count. Can't deny that. He scored more professional goals than I have, and he's looked exciting and good so far. So that gave Westerlo a 1-0 lead, but just before half-time, Jeffrey Heremans with a lovely, lovely finish to put Mechelen back on level terms. And almost instantly into the second half, he made it 2-1 to the hosts. Another fine finish from him. And at this point, you think, okay, maybe Mechelen are going to kind of take control of this game and push on with it. They were obviously missing the likes of Nicholas Storm. They're missing Ngoy still as well. So missing a couple of key players. However, they decided to give away a penalty in the 60th minute. Gio DX, who's had a really good start to the season for Westerlo, he stepped up and made it 2-2. And then he scored again. Really, really nice finish from him, cutting in on the right-hand side, from the right-hand side onto his left peg, whipped it into the far corner. 3-2, that point to Westerlo, turnaround completed. They then made it 4. Awful, awful defending and goalkeeping. Gaetan Kook and I think was it Thibaut Pierre or Van Horenbeek or Vandenberg? One of those guys at the back just had an absolute stinker. Miscommunication between the two of them. Neither really knew what they were doing. Lau Foster nipped in 4-2 at that point, and you're thinking, right, Westerlo have come here. They beat Standard last week. They're now looking like they're going to beat Mechelen away from home, scoring 4 goals. However, for Mechelen, they then decided to bring on the man of the moment. Danny Boyce went to Milan Robereks to give him his first kind of start for this club. And what a substitution that proved to be. It wasn't him that got the initial one, but it was Rob Scouse in the 76th minute who got them back into the game with another deflected goal. He's gone from scoring screamers to just scoring deflected ones this season. And then it was the Robereks show. Literally a minute later, he made it 4-4. And then literally 8 minutes later, he made it 5-4 with a tap in after another kind of goalmouth scramble. Pretty poor goalkeeping actually from Sinan Bolot. Just a low cross coming in, him palming it straight into the path of Robereks. Joris, what a debut for this young man. And you just know that Football Manager and FIFA and all that are going to give him ridiculous potential because they'll just look at the stats and be like, oh, he scored 2 goals on his debut as a youngster. He must be incredible. Albeit, not take anything away from his goals, but what a debut to have, kind of scoring 2 goals in the last few minutes of a match to win a ridiculously weird game of football.
Yeah, definitely. What a game of football that was. You summed it up there, I guess. You can't really start your career better than in this way. Buzz also made after the game the comments about Schmidt didn't really want to play, so he didn't. Then when someone had to come on the off the bench, then he decided, okay, let's throw this one in. Milan Albrecht, congratulations on your first 2 goals already. Of course, Milan, a very promising start for him on the game. Then well, like you mentioned, a lot of deflections and bad defending, and as you mentioned, touched on in the beginning as well, it actually wasn't a great game of football. There were quite some weird goals. That first goal from Westerlo, well, literally leaving 3 players of the 6-yard box free. Well, at least unmarked 2 players, and then 1 player half-hearted marked, I guess. And then even though they even still really tried to mess this up because they needed 2 or 3 tries to get it past Kuke, ultimately someone will step it in then, of course, and that happened. It seems to be that Westerlo can only win at home and lose away from home, so that seems to be their trend of the season so far. So they won both their home games, and they lost their 3 away games. It also looked a bit like a throwback to me as well. Back in the day, Westerlo had a few seasons in a row where they played a 5-5 to Genk and 6-6 against Genk in consecutive seasons at the back end of the 90s already. So, well, I didn't actually have live memories of those games, but I've seen the summaries of these highlights, and these were also crazy games, and it really looked like it. Oh, they're back in top tier, so they need to have another draw. I think both of these games were also quite early in the season. If I'm correct here, it looked like, okay, maybe not 5-5 but 4-4, then maybe it will be 5-5, but ultimately it was just a loss, of course. Yeah, funnily enough, I was yesterday talking to a Werder Bremen fan. We were talking about Bremen's stunt last weekend, this weekend against Dortmund, the 3-2 coming final winners, final minutes scoring 3 after being 2 behind and winning the game. And this is more or less what happened here with a different scoreline, but we were talking about it in the sense of that they even call it like doing a Werder, because it has happened over the course of over a few seasons. Anderlecht also have some memories with Werder Bremen in European tie, where they were leading 3-0 and then lost 5-3 in the end. Yeah, okay, that's a bit enough sidetracking, but Mechel basically did this kind of Werder, coming back from 2-4 to win it 2-4 in, like, I think it was still at 50 minutes before the end of the game. So in 15 minutes they managed to turn it around. And about the quality of the game, can't really say much. The Voer got a red card at the sidelines that first seemed to have pushed it over the line for Westerlo, because that was at 2-3 for Westerlo. They did manage to score that next one, but maybe in the end it was a catalyst for the turnaround. Who knows?
It was so funny when I was like, oh, someone's been sent off from the bench. So I looked, I was like, oh, it's Stephen Defoe. It was just like, oh, okay, yeah, forgot he was still there, and he just like marches off. There's no better way, I don't think, to win a game than that. Kind of, you look like you're on the edge of defeat, and then 15 minutes later you've won the game. All the kind of fair weather fans have gone home because they're like, oh yeah, we've lost this game, blah, blah, blah. And then you can be like, I stayed and I was committed to it. And that pretty much rounds up this week's kind of domestic fixtures from the top division. Obviously, without Scott, we don't have our 1B guru here, but we will quickly run through the results. Denzer beat Young Genk 3-2 in an absolute thriller on Friday night. Standard Liège youth team showed the first team how to do it. They put in a really good display against Beerschot, twice going ahead, but twice being pulled back. So that one finished 2 goals apiece. Molenbeek squeaked past newly promoted Dender. That was a 1-0 win for them. Vaseline Beveren threw it away against Verton. They were winning for so long, and then in the 91st minute they conceded to leave that one 2 goals apiece. And then Anderlecht's Futures, they stunned Lommel with a 2-0 win away from home. And then Liège beat Club Next 3-1. The youth team's playing quite well to start the season, as we kind of talked about in terms of preparation and stuff like that. So, funnily enough, it is actually Anderlecht's second team, Anderlecht's Futures, who are currently top of the table there. So, who'd have seen that coming, but still very, very early days in 1B. Joris, before we go, let's quickly talk over the European matches. Let's start with Anderlecht. So they travelled last week to Switzerland to play Young Boys, and what was a tricky tie on paper. In fact, there's only one shot on target for each team in this one, so quite a bit of like a stalemate one. But it's Hannes Delcroix who got the goal away from home to give them a 1-0 win. Antwerp, on the other hand, they travelled to Istanbul Başakşehir, and they left it late in that one to kind of come back. It was Dini Almeida in the final few minutes to give them a 1-1 draw, which is a massive, massive turnaround for them. And hopefully both sides can do it at home. One side that didn't manage to do it at home were Ghent. They lost 2-0 at home to Ammonia Nicosia. Really, really disappointing. The guy that scored for Ammonia the first goal has one of the best names, I think, in football. Charalambos Charalambous. He got on the score sheet. What a fantastic name. And then Brandon Barker, who me and Scott remember. Scott remembers him from Scottish football. I remember him from playing for Reading for about 5 minutes last season. He scored an absolute screamer in this one. Ghent have it all to do going into the second leg. Joris, I guess we kind of expected one of the sides to kind of falter, but Ghent probably were the one side we thought at home would actually do quite well. What's your kind of assessment of what we saw in the European matches in the first kind of round?
Yeah, well, that's very disappointing result from Ghent indeed. Let's hope that they can turn it around still. I guess they were a bit unlucky from what I've heard and seen. They hit the post a few times and the woodwork, and just the finishing was not there, and they got hit twice. And that's definitely not a good position to go into. So that's the most disappointing result. Antwerp was also quite disappointing in the game, I guess, in both in the approach and in the play in the game, how it went. But they did manage to get out of Istanbul with a draw, which is not that bad a result. Let's also hope they can finish that off at home at the Basel. Also, of course, they were a bit forced to play a bit more defensively, maybe because all the wingers were out, so to say. So they did go back to a more defensive strategy, which did not really work to my liking. But in the end, a brilliant header though from Almeida to equalize and get away with a decent result and an all to play for game. Of course, also Anderlecht's game is also still all to play for. They did manage to get a good win away from home. They did manage to weather the storm in the first minutes. In the first 15 minutes, it was all young boys, and it looked really dire for them. But Anderlecht then got away with it and weathered that storm, and then all in all a good result, of course. And also, I guess they can be relatively happy with what they have shown. But as you can hear here, so Ghent is already certain of any group phase. So even if they would not manage to turn it around, maybe it's even for the coefficient better for that they would be in a conference league, so that they can rack up some points there, like they did last season. But the two other teams are both all to play for. So let's hope that both of them can manage to get through and get into the group stage, and then we might be off to a good year.
Yeah, definitely. It would be a weird like blessing in disguise, wouldn't it, if Ghent just dropped into the Conference League, because it's a less difficult competition. I guess you get more varied teams in it. I feel like they'd really quite struggle in the Europa League, whereas in the Conference League, and I like it. I like it as a competition. It'd be nice if we had 3 teams in it. It could be quite enjoyable to see how far each of them could get, because I feel like Antwerp and Anderlecht should do quite well in it. They definitely got the quality, and Ghent with Tisu Dali would have been quite fun to watch in it. But we'll see. They signed Jens Peter Hauger, and he was straight into the lineup. I like Jens Peter Hauger. I think he's a good player, so it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts to the league and whether he can fill the boots of Tisu Dali. I don't think he's that sort of player, but they've signed him to kind of bring a bit more goal scoring creativity in that sort of sense. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, by this time next week, we will know what the results are and we will go over it then. Domestically, let's have a quick look ahead. So on Friday night, we have Charleroi against Club Bruges. Then on Saturday, we have Seraing against Genk. There were rumours that this one wasn't going to be on, but it looks like it is going to be on now. Genk have come out and said that the game's going ahead, so they're definitely turning up. Then we have Cercle Bruges against Ottervallegem, Leuven against Oostend, Sint Truiden against Mechelen, Ghent against Antwerp, so they're all back in action. Kortrijk Standard, Union against Anderlecht, so the Brussels derby. And then we should have Westerlo against Eupen. Is that another one? There's a couple that potentially have been said they might be postponed, but at the moment it looks like they're all going ahead. But if not, we'll then, not talk about them next week. Joris, as always, thank you very much for joining me and doing the two-man show together.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back and definitely to fill the void that Scott also had here, and also to quickly come back to this, to these rumors. And if you're wondering why these games would not go through, it's because of some cup fixtures. Seraing is supposed to play in the cup already in the cup this weekend, or like one of the days around the weekend. But in the end, it's that game that gets postponed. It's a bit ridiculous though that it's only 5 days before the games. There's some clarity for that, but I guess that's just Belgian football for you again.
Yeah, when I saw it was postponed, I was like, what is going on here? But then thankfully, Genk released a statement, so it's all good. Anyway, hopefully we'll have Scott back next week. If not, we'll have to do the two-man show again. As per usual, though, thank you very much for listening. Please do leave us a review on your podcast app of choice. Do feel free to get in touch with us as well. You can find us on Twitter, on email as well. You can find our Gmail as well. You can also join our fantasy football tournament. Mikael de Klerk is still at the top. Ferrell Ferren FC. I've slipped right down to 5th, still below Alex. Dieter van Hoot in 2nd place. Peter van Vin in 3rd, and then Alex in 4th, me in 5th. Then just underneath me, it's Aidan Button in 6th, but he's only 2 points behind. So plenty still to play for in the fantasy football stakes. Feel free to join us on that. Thanks for listening, and we'll speak to you very soon on another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast.